hardest lesson I had to learn when I started my corporate job was that you want to be calculatedly incompetent.
Being strategically incompetent is a tactic people use, but I do not recommend it for, I would say, even most people. I'm going to suggest some alternatives if you fall into any marginalized categories. Talked before about the stereotype content model. Many research studies for decades have shown support for this model, that there are two things we perceive in stereotypes: warmth and competence. Notice who's at the bottom of competence: welfare respondents, homeless. It's poor people, low-income people. Who's like in the middle but on the lower end: blue-collar people, black people, Muslims, Hispanics, gay men, etc. Indigenous. Look up here on the left, who's considered warm but incompetent: people who are mentally ill or neurodivergent. Women are perceived as high in warmth but low in competence. You don't want to add to this stereotype if you're already in any of these groups. In my research on the unwritten rules of work, especially my black respondents talk about how they are not allowed to make mistakes. They are held to a standard of perfection. And even some of the white respondents, the white men, a third of them brought up that people of color and women were held to higher standards than they were. That they were more likely to be forgiven for mistakes and others weren't. And I've shared several stories on here about my own experience of corporates seeing this happen with Black and Latin employees. Strategic incompetence can also be harmful for neurodivergent people because it can be harder to pretend that you're bad at something when you're also trying to mask if, say, you're autistic. All of this points to deeper institutional issues in that workplace that you feel like you have to do strategic incompetence within. It benefits people who already know the unwritten rules and know how to play the game, but also results in other things like poor work-life balance, unequal distribution of workloads, even lack of professional development opportunities. Instead of being strategically incompetent, I recommend you be strategically creative with incorporating your interests into anything you're asked to do. Of course, set boundaries. I don't disclose that I'm an excellent note taker, that I type very quickly, because otherwise I become the receptionist, for example. However, I have learned how to tie everything to what I'm interested in. If you're always asked to do the grunt work, like make the PowerPoints, and your real passion is maybe, like for me, what I do with class, social class, find a way to tie it in there. Is it a DEI deck? Did they just talk about race, gender, and sexual orientation? Did they leave a class out? Tie it in. Are you passionate about new technology? Find a way to pitch a new way to do something in the deliverable. Even if it's small, even if it's just incorporating a Kahoot, which may not be new technology, but maybe new to that platform and a new way for them to engage with their clients. In addition to doing that, number 2, clearly communicate your workload and capacity to your managers. Number 3, negotiate priorities with them. You can do this by asking, when they give you something new and you're really overworked, how do you want me to prioritize this with my other tasks? Should I do task A first, or do you need task B first now? And this is a way to gently let them know, I can't do all of this, or I'm not willing to do all this. It goes against my boundaries. Build strong relationships and a network at work so that people know what your interests are and that they like you and want to work with you and support you in those interests. 4, always document your achievements. Always. I always tell my research assistants, my employees, etc., keep a list of everything you do, because 1, it'll be helpful if you ever need a letter of recommendation from me. It'll also help when I have to do your once a year performance appraisal. Yes, it's my responsibility to document that too, but nobody's going to know the level of detail like you do. I had an employee who would voluntarily send me that document every Friday. He had clearly been abused before. I didn't ask it of him, but it made it really easy for me to keep up with his work, and to, whenever management or executives asked me, how does he seem to be doing, I was able to give great examples. So this lets your project manager know what your workload is, builds communication, builds relationships, and gives opportunity for feedback that they're like, I don't really want you focusing on this. And even if they don't open it and read it, you have created a documentation trail for if later on in your performance appraisal, they talk about, well, you weren't focusing on what I wanted you to. Then you have a history, documented history of, I let you know what I was doing, and I didn't get any of that feedback early on. So those are things any employees can do. But leadership, keep in mind that this is on us. Unwritten rules in workplaces cause real equity problems, and not everybody knows them. Addressing unwritten rules is not just more equitable, it also allows for more engaged employees and more innovation and better quality work. You want to play the game, prepare your team. Take them to practice. You don't just go to the games. You have to practice as a team first. This is why I do my workshops, my consulting, my coaching, because it's really hard to see unwritten rules in your own organization, because the unwritten rules likely line up with what your rules are, but nobody has universal rules. Remember, the goal is to focus on your job and the organizational goals, not on navigating an invisible rule book.